Welcome to a concise history of the Korean War, brought to you by warscholar.com. The Korean War lasted from 1950 to 1953. The Korean War was actually called a police action by the United States since war was not officially declared by Congress. In 1949, the Chinese Communists won their civil war with the Chinese nationalists. They began to support armed communist struggles along their territorial periphery since they considered the U.S. and all of its allies to be a danger to their security and political movement. During World War II, the Allies split Korea into two parts. After the war, North Korea was under the control of the Soviet Union and the South under U.S. control. Tensions and conflict increased between and within the two halves, and finally North Korea, with Chinese help, invaded South Korea on June 25, 1950. The South Korean government fled Seoul and put its unprepared forces under the command of the United Nations. The U.S. was able to send some forces to counter the invasion, but by August, the U.S. and Korean armies had been pushed back to Busan. The U.S. began reinforcing its positions and used air and naval attacks to slow the attackers. In September, the U.S. and Korea counterattacked while conducting an amphibious assault behind enemy lines at Incheon. Through September, the U.S. pushed the North Koreans back to Seoul and beyond. On October 1st, UN forces moved beyond the 38th parallel and into North Korea. On October 19th, the U.S. and Republic of Korea armies captured the North Korean capital, Pyongyang. During the fighting, China had prepared an army to fight in Korea. On October 25th, the Chinese crossed into North Korea and successfully attacked the South Koreans and then U.S. forces. The Chinese withdrew and then attacked again in late November, driving the UN forces south. By mid-December, UN forces had been driven back across the 38th parallel into South Korea. The Chinese executed the third phase of their offensive on New Year's 1951. They successfully retook Seoul. UN and Chinese forces battled fiercely in the winter weather until the U.S. retook Seoul on March 14, 1951. By April, UN forces had pushed China and the North Korean army just north of the 38th parallel. While fierce fighting continued at this new front line, neither side made notable gains, and armistice negotiations began on July 10th and continued for 2 years. One of the major holdups in an agreement was how to handle the exchange of prisoners of war. A ceasefire was established on July 27, 1953, and subsequently a demilitarized zone between the Koreas was created. The DMZ ran approximately along the 38th parallel and is still in existence as of 2010. This has been a concise history of the Korean War brought to you by warscholar.com. Thank you.